So as I'm recording this video, the Phoenix Suns are up 3-1 in the Western Conference Final over the Los Angeles Clippers, and they've dominated this series in the entire playoffs. And one guy that's really stood out to me and lots of other fans around the NBA is DeAndre Ayton. He's been the definition of like a perfect role player this entire series. He's really developing into one of the better centers in the NBA right now, and he's shown that throughout this entire playoffs and specifically in this series. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about what his impact has meant to this Phoenix Suns team, how he's played so well throughout this entire playoffs, and the recognition that he absolutely deserves from NBA fans, and just overall how good he's been in this entire playoff run. So let's get straight into the video. The first thing I want to talk about DeAndre Ayton's game in the playoffs specifically has been his defense. The Suns have been a dominant defensive team for this entire playoff run. They've ranked second in the playoffs in defensive rating with 105.5. They're only behind the Milwaukee Bucks, who are at about a 103 defensive rating, but I've studied their defense a lot throughout this entire playoff run, and they're absolutely playing like the best defensive team in the NBA right now, and specifically against the Clippers, they've just been absolutely dominant. And it's because they have just amazing overall defense chemistry with each other. They do a great job of doing things like shrinking the floor, recovering out to shooters. They have a lot of great on-ball defenders and versatile defenders, but really the main thing about the Suns defense is the defensive anchor, and that's obviously DeAndre Ayton. Now we know that the defensive anchor is the most important part of a team's defense, and Ayton has absolutely done an amazing job, specifically in this series, but really throughout the entire playoffs. He's obviously a very good rim protector, does a great job of blocking shots around the rim and contesting shots around the rim. He's averaged 2 blocks per game in this series against the Clippers and 1 block per game over the course of the playoffs, and contests about 14 shots per game in the playoffs, which is third in the entire playoffs so far. He also does a great job of doing things like help, and he's a great help defender. Obviously he's the last line of defense, but does a great job of helping off of the wings and trapping teams in double teams sometimes. He has a great defensive IQ and obviously has fantastic instincts on the defensive end of the floor, and also does a great job on rotations. And the Suns have only allowed 35 points per game in the paint in this series against the Los Angeles Clippers, and only a 59% field goal percentage within 6 feet of the basket, which is absolutely mind-boggling just how good that is. Obviously 60% from the field is a great percentage, but within 6 feet, that's just absolutely insane. And also the fact that they've only scored 35 points per game in the paint against the Suns this series really speaks to just how good DeAndre Ayton is defending in the paint, doing a great job of protecting the rim, and also defending in the post very well. He's a fantastic defender. He's turning into one of the better defenders in the NBA right now, absolutely plays his role perfectly on that end of the floor, and he's been a huge reason for the Suns' success on the defensive end of the floor. The next part of DeAndre Ayton's game I want to talk about here specifically in the playoffs is his scoring. Now obviously he isn't the go-to guy as a scorer for the Phoenix Suns, but when it comes to scoring, he absolutely plays his role very well as well. He's averaged 16.5 points per game in the playoffs so far and 18 points per 75 possessions, and like I mentioned, just overall plays his role very well. He does a great job of doing things like cleaning up the glass, and I'm going to talk about his rebounding and the impact that he brings when it comes to rebounding as well. He's also a very consistent lob threat, does a great job of in the pick and roll, rolling towards the basket and creating easy shots for himself around the rim off of passes from guys like Cameron Payne and Chris Paul. And he's also dominant in the post at times. He's really became a little bit more versatile in the post as well, can really create his own shot, and has continued to progress in that area of the game, becoming a little bit more versatile and even adding a jump shot at times. And that's going to progress as his career goes on as well. But overall, right now, he's really just doing a great job of playing his role, like I mentioned, cleaning up the glass, being a lob threat, and dominating at times in the post. And in the playoffs, he shot an astounding 71% from the field, 71% true shooting, and 71% effective field goal percentage. So obviously he gets a lot of buckets around the rim, but he does it extremely efficiently, pretty much plays his role better than anyone that we've seen throughout the playoffs. He's obviously not anything special when it comes to scoring because he doesn't get many opportunities to do anything outside of the paint, but he shouldn't. He knows what his role is, and he plays that role perfectly when it comes to scoring, and we've got to give him 100% credit for doing this and really doing what's best for the team. Another thing that I want to talk about Ayton here, and the most underrated part of his game right now, is his playmaking ability on the offensive end of the floor. Casuals that don't actually watch the NBA games and only look at basic stats and don't look into more in-depth and advanced stats like the ones I'm going to be talking about here won't really understand the impact that guys like Ayton and also some guys like Rudy Gobert specifically really stands out to me here. They won't understand the impact that some of these guys have on the offensive end of the floor when it comes to their screening ability and how that's overall very good playmaking and how it really impacts their team. Because, I mean, really, a lot of fans that just look at the box score won't see how good of a playmaker DeAndre Ayton is because he only averages 1 assist per game in the playoffs. But he ranks 2nd in the playoffs so far in screen assists with around 6 per game and 5th in screen assist points with around 12.5 per game. He does a very good job of setting screens, and not only just setting screens, but setting screens that result in points and creation on the offensive side of the floor for his team. And a big part of not only in the playoffs but throughout this entire season for the stars on this team like Chris Paul and Devin Booker, and also the emergence of a guy like Cameron Payne and some of the other guards on this team that like to create shots at the top of the key, has been the play of DeAndre Ayton and how he gets open shots for them by setting screens. And he also does a great job of moving. I was talking about earlier how he's a great lob threat and very good in the pick and roll. He's a very good, one of the best in the league in the pick and roll as the roll man towards the basket. I already talked about those screen assists that he has for his guards, but he also does a great job of rolling to the rim and creating open shots for himself in the pick and roll. And overall, he's just been very good with that, and overall just setting screens and creating open shots for his teammates. The playmaking part of DeAndre Ayton's game is pretty underrated, and most people understand what he's doing right now and aren't underrating him, but this aspect of his game is something that people need to pay more attention to because it's having a really good effect on his team. Again, just like I talked about with his scoring, he's just playing his role perfectly, and that's the thing that I like the most about Ayton. He's a team player and he does what's best for the team. He plays his role perfectly, and we have to give him credit for that. The last thing I want to talk about DeAndre Ayton's game here is his rebounding, and I think this is the most impactful part of his game and the part of his game that the Suns have really liked the most and really needed the most in the NBA playoffs so far. I mean, the game before I recording this video, the last Suns game, Ayton put up 19 points and 22 rebounds in that game, and just overall in the playoffs, he's been an absolute beast on the glass. He's averaged about 11.5 rebounds per game in the playoffs and about 5 contested rebounds per game. Both of these ranked 6th in the entire NBA playoffs so far. He also has about 3.5 offensive rebounds per game, and I talked about earlier how with his scoring, a lot of that is cleaning up the glass and getting rebounds on the offensive side of the floor. He's done a great job of that and putting them back, and that's obviously a big part of his role is getting offensive rebounds. And he's also had a 59% rebound chance percentage, which means that pretty much all of the rebounds that he's had a chance at getting, he's got about 59% of those, and an 18% rebound percentage, which essentially is a stat saying that when he's on the floor, he's got about 18% of the total available rebounds. So overall, he's just done a great job on the glass. This provides a lot of not only just energy for the Phoenix Suns team, but very crucial rebounds. He's got a lot of crucial rebounds too down the stretch. A big one stands out last night, or the last Phoenix Suns game, the game 4, the huge 84-80 grind out 1990s type of score victory that they had over the Los Angeles Clippers. No one's going to talk about this play, but down the stretch with about 30 seconds left, Ayton got a huge offensive rebound for his team after they ran out the shot clock. They had to throw up a bit of a desperation shot. He got a huge offensive rebound, and just little things like that has so much of an impact on a championship caliber team like the Phoenix Suns, and this right here has been another huge impactful part of DeAndre Ayton's game towards the Phoenix Suns' success. I think what I like the most about Ayton, like I mentioned a little bit earlier on, is how he knows that he's a role player, so he just goes out there and does exactly what the team needs him to and plays his role absolutely perfectly. Now, in terms of his ranking, I am going to come out with a big ranking series after the season where I go through my top 10 at each position right now in the NBA, and then I'll probably also release my big top 50 list. But right now, I have Ayton ranked as the 7th best center in the NBA, and he's absolutely moved up my list a little bit there due to his playoff performance. I'm not ready to put him in the top 5. In the playoffs, he's absolutely been a top 5 center, but I'm not ready to put him in the top 5 yet, just because I think that would be a little bit too much recency bias, and I'm not ready to put him over the absolutely elite defensive centers like Rudy Gobert and Clint Capella yet, but I think he's definitely in the top 7. He's earned that with the play that he's had on both sides of the floor, along with his rebounding, and I have him very close to a top 40 player. Currently, I have him ranked 42nd on my top 50 list, and there's just so much talent in the league right now that a role player like Ayton can't necessarily be in the top 40 for me yet, but he's absolutely a top 50 player. He's very close to being a top 40 player, and if he starts developing this game to a point where he can be putting up 20 points per game, get a little bit of a bigger role on a team, and continue to do the little things like screening, rebounding, and playing very well defensively, he could potentially be an all-star in this league very, very soon, and he has absolutely a bright future going forward with his career. So there you have it. That is the end of today's video. Those are my thoughts on DeAndre Ayton and how well he's played in the playoffs this season, and where I currently rank him among centers in the league right now. He's had an amazing impact defensively with his scoring, his playmaking, and his rebounding, as I talked about in today's video, and overall he just plays his role insanely well and is exactly what this Phoenix Suns team needs, and really what any championship team needs, as a center who's going to play a role like this and be a fantastic role player. So those are my thoughts on DeAndre Ayton. Comment down below what you think of DeAndre Ayton, where you rank him among centers right now, and how good you think he's been in the NBA playoffs so far. Thank you all for watching this video. If you're new, consider subscribing. I'm on the road to 1,000 subscribers right now and posting lots of NBA content, so make sure you hit that subscribe button. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.